Hey guys, it's Godbars here, the self-proclaimed hip-hop historian, and this is the 112th episode of my series, where I grab a vinyl from my collection, talk about why I love it, what influence it had, and what its place is in the grand scheme of hip-hop. So if you were just walking around and decided to ask random people on the street who they thought the pioneers of G-Funk in the West Coast were in the 90s, they might start with some of the obvious California greats like Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, Tupac, Ice Cube, or Warren G. And obviously, there's no denying where those legends stand in the culture and what they did for it, which is why the majority of them have been featured on this channel already. However, if you ask that same question to anyone really versed in California or West Coast hip hop, or just most people over 30 or 40 from any hood in the state, a name you'd begin to hear brought up constantly is DJ Quik. And this is for good reason, because he may not have reached that NWA level of superstardom, but he was just as influential in creating and advancing the sound of G-Funk. He often brings up himself, how he feels he deserves the same accolades Dre has, and while I'm kind of a believer in letting other people speak for your legacy, he's one of the few OGs that can get away with it, mainly because any real appreciator of the subgenre can acknowledge his massive influence. His 1991 debut, Quik is the Name, largely introduced this sound to the world, coming before The Chronic, Doggy Style, and a myriad of other 90s West Coast classics. I've mentioned before how Dre often gets credit as bringing G-Funk into the game on my review for DOC's No One Can Do It Better, but to my knowledge that mostly is referring to a specific single song off this classic. As for full albums in this department that came before Quik, really the only ones that come to mind are the debuts by Above the Law and Compton's Most Wanted in 1990, as well as the work that Bay Area pioneers like Too Short or Mac Dre were doing, and maybe Ice Cube's debut that also came out in 1990, though with the Bomb Squad production, it's kind of hard to really classify this one as G-Funk. Another reason Quik is often compared to Dr. Dre is they didn't just produce countless classics for other artists and change the game with their sound, but they both rapped on their albums as well as producing them. However, unlike Dre, to my knowledge, Quik writes all of his own material, which honestly is highly underrated for an MC who's mainly known for his killer beats. He has a smooth, easy to recognize style that's packaged through a tight, bouncy flow that at times can get pretty technical. As if that weren't enough, he has a shining sense of humor that he applies all across his work, as well as an extremely proficient singing voice he's utilized on multiple projects. He initially showcased this ability on his first LP with the Bomb Bud, which he reimagines on this fourth album here with Bomb Bud 2. And it without a doubt is the best reggae song that I've ever heard come out of a rapper, personally. I'm not sure how many other Quik fans are of the same opinion, but while 1998's Rhythm-Al-Ism definitely came at a time where G-Funk was well on its way out, that actually doesn't take away from the experience at all for me, because I see it as more of a love letter to the subgenre that he was an essential part of building. In my opinion, this is arguably the single most polished G-Funk project in the genre, because this thing is just front-to-back bangers with no let-up, and the overall mixing is a lot clearer than what you'll hear on most of the earlier 90s G-Funk albums. One of my favorite moments has to be the Funky Posse cut where each guest verse builds on this hilarious idea of Quik and his accomplices all being involved with the same girl, but not realizing it until they described who the girl they were getting with was to each other. He also has some pretty forward-thinking and progressive topics where he clearly had some years to reflect on his old lifestyle and make smarter decisions. It isn't like Quik turned on his people or his true self. There aren't too many rappers from the 90s who openly rep the Bloods to the degree he did, and that's probably why he takes the time on this LP to directly say how he's left that part of his life behind. While it seems like he hadn't completely yet patched things up with CMW at this point in his career, his little diss towards MC8 at the end still fits into the theme of the song, with him again displaying that golden sense of humor, saying if 8 gets his head together, he can give him a record. And I actually believe him too, because even if he had never done beats for the likes of Pac and Jay, he's never delivered a whack instrumental, at least not that I've heard. The insane quality of every verse and beat on here is impressive enough, but then when you add the endlessly catchy and addictive hooks all over this thing, it's pretty hard for me to imagine anyone getting bored with Quake's infectious personality and above-average pen. But even if that somehow were to happen, there's plenty of other dope guest appearances from friends and affiliates. While the only other producer with his hand in the pot here is G1, we get talented features by the likes of Sugar Free, Second to None, Peter Guns, El DeBarge, AMG, Mossberg, Play a Ham, High C, and both Snoop and Nate Dogg. My honorable mentions for this personal favorite include the Rhythm-Al-Ism intro, Hand in Hand, Use a Gangsta, Speed, Thinking About You, Medley for a V or the Pussy Medley, and Get Together Again. My three favorites overall on here would probably have to be Used to Know Her, Bomb Bud 2, and No Doubt. Thank you for watching my 112th video. Next time we're going back to the Big Apple to discuss one of the most overdue rapper-producer duos that I haven't discussed yet. So check in for that one, and if you enjoyed, be sure to like, subscribe, and let me know what your favorite songs off of this send-off to G-Funk are. Don't forget to have a great day, and I'll see you next time, okay? Alright.